Keys to family unity. We're continuing the study on different things that we go through in life in the context of a family. We have different roles in a family, and our role also changes through time. We may be a parent, a child, a grandparent. There are also big gaps between generations, and we don't really understand much each other. We're very peculiar people as well, and how can we live together?
We have all heard the saying that the smallest unit in society is family. And as such, it includes all the various forms of relationships that society has. So I can confidently conclude that the keys to family unity hides in the way the relationships are set up in a family and the values that have been chosen as their basis.
In many cases, keeping the distance is the key for unity and peace. And I think that this is how our society is set up. Respect each other, but don't intrude in my space. And it's much often easier for us to get united around a common enemy, around things that we don't like. This is even how somehow we choose political leaders, by voting against someone else. It's much more difficult to get united around things that we see, we like, and we experience together in unity.
Big key to success is when members of a family are heading toward the same goal. It doesn't mean that they share the same path, the same road of getting there, but we share the same directional point. For Christians, Christ is this directional point, and how we get there is very individual, it's personal. However, heading the same direction is what brings us closer and closer to each other, and then we cannot avoid but being more and more united.
We do have this illustration with the circle and Christ in the center, and as we get closer to Him, we get closer to each other. But we do have problems understanding unity as ultimately portrayed in God and the Trinity. I mean, three gods in one? No, one God? But how? It's not our math. It's not how we look at things. But hopefully this can help a bit. 5 is different than 6, right? This is our math. But think about infinity. Think about 2 infinite numbers. Are they different or technically the same? It's a different math. It's a different world. And here this is the key for me. In the introduction, the lesson pointed that we need to experience grace every day. This is how unity is made possible. This is how the math is made possible.
I said already that coming closer and closer to each other somehow helps us build unity. However, this is more of an environmental setup than being the force behind it. So what's the force? Because if I have to be honest, sometimes closeness brings friction in relationships. People have been looking for this magical formula that solves all the problems for people who come closer and closer to each other. And the way the world is set up today, we see that people are being united, achieving things together under the power of money, or the power of knowledge, or some other passion or hobby. But how long do these last? The moment money is gone, unity gets broken easily. The real force behind lasting unity is love. Love that is based on divine principles. Love that is kind and forgiving. Love that is super patient. Love that does not destroy and does not delight in the evil, but love that builds. Love that trusts. Love that rejoices in the truth.
But we can't produce this love. It has to be experienced. Love each other as I loved you, Jesus said. And this is what made it possible for the grumpy son of thunder John to become the apostle of love. If we want unity in our families, we need to experience this love from God that we can then reflect and pass on to those around us.
What the lesson does next is give us one thing we should limit ourselves from doing, and another thing that we should learn to do more so we could experience unity as a key for success. The one thing we should avoid is being selfish. But aren't we born this way? Look at the children. There is no end to their demands and end to their self-gratifying desires. The one thing that we want to learn more in our life is submission. But isn't that just the opposite of what our nature dictates? Unfortunately, again, the answer is yes. If you look at those two, being selfish and submissive, they even oppose each other. You can't be selfish and submissive at the same time. We have to make a choice. And we have to make those choices daily of what we really want to become. Because the choices we make will define the relationships we have. And in turn, they will determine if we have or not unity in our family.
This makes sense, and it's not so difficult to agree with, but in practicality, we often prove that we have no idea what it means. We can always point to reasons why things are not going so well in our relationships. We can always explain what someone else has to change so we can be more compatible. But can we really love so much so we can put all our pride aside? So we can get over and through the imperfections of our children, spouses, parents, and submit ourselves to their well-being and to the well-being of our families.
The lesson ends with a strong point of conclusion. We might know all the keys of achieving unity in our families. However, if there is no commitment, none of this will work out. To follow up on our decisions, on our choices, to persist on building such relationships, this is what commitment is about. It's not easy, and it's not a quick kind of a deal. It requires patience and faithfulness. So, how do you feel about living and implementing those keys of success for family unity? At the end of the day, what we do is what we get.
When we say our vows at a wedding, when we make promises, we don't really have an idea of what we are talking about. We have no idea what it means to dedicate yourself, to commit, until life's reality hits us. But we can learn and grow in it if we remain faithful to our commitment. Seasons of Parenting is the next item in the study, so see you in a week.